Hi everybody, we're into chapter 5 now, and we're going to start looking at how we can save parameters into the game save file. This is really useful if you're just coming into YouTube and you're finding this video and you just want to know how save game systems work in Unreal. You're going to figure it out from this as well, but what we're trying to do is, following the tutorial series, we want to put the details of this fixture's position and intensity into a save game so we can recall it again for later. So it's all about how can we save presets, if you want to use the lighting vernacular. As we go through, we're going to try and create multiple presets for multiple fixtures, so you can start to create lots of different positions. But it's a complicated process, so we can take it a step at a time. To start with, we're just going to create a save game slot and a load game slot. Say a load game slot, and see if we can make it work. So we're going to dig straight in with our editor. Let's load back up our UI console. Now, what we're going to need in here is a collection of variables which will be saved into the game save object. Now, these will be our pan, tilt, and intensity. That's all we're going to work with for now. So if we look at our blueprint, where did our pan and tilt information go? We have an int here, so a variable for our intensity, a variable for our pan, and a variable for our tilt. We want to push those into the game save slots. Okay. To do that, we need to create a game save blueprint. So let's go into our content drawer, our blueprints folder, and we're going to create a new blueprint class. Now, these are the options that we get given. Now, we usually load an actor or a pawn. These are the ones that are most common. Now, there's loads of others in here, all different sort of classes that you could load up as a blueprint class. If we search for save, we should see the save game blueprint class. Let's create that. Select. And I'm going to call it save game. Oh, BP underscore at the beginning. Always put that on so we know what it is. Let's load it up. Now, you could do a whole load of stuff in here, but all we need to do is create some variables. The variables where we're going to store the information. What happens is that other blueprint, our UI widget, is going to push those variables into the save game and save it in a slot, and all the other stuff's then contained inside here. So we're going to go to our variables. We're going to create a new one. We're going to call this intensity. And what I'm going to do, so just at the beginning, I'm going to put on it save game intensity, just so it's easy to find later, because it will become complicated if we can't, if we just call it intensity, because we've got lots of variables now that are called something similar. We're going to make it an integer, an int. There we go. And we need another one, another integer. We're going to call it save game pan, and one more called save game tilt. And we're going to make these all public. I'm not sure if I have to do that, but I think because it's been called into another blueprint, we should. This is a very complicated setup, so I am referring constantly to my default project. Make sure I've got this all right. Yes, that looks correct. There are two other variables that we need, and I'm going to set these up now, but we might not use them until later. I'll explain later, but just so we got them built and they're there, we need a player name and a save slot name. So this is how the other blueprint is going to know where to put the save game. So we're going to create a string called save game underscore player name. And that needs to be a string because it's going to be the name of the player. We're going to write that in and push it to this blueprint. Another one. I'm not spelling very well. Save game, and we're going to call it save game slot. So I know it's a bit of a mouthful. I think it's really important that we have that prefix save game. It will come up later when we're trying to find it in the other blueprint. It will help differentiate these variables from all of the others. So what this is, these two, these are really, you're familiar with them if you play computer games. If you wanted to save something, you get all the slots, right? You can log in and see, okay, that's save game on that day. That's my auto save. That's my quick save. That's those three. And you name them. And that name is what we're pushing into this variable. The player name is the name of the person that's created the character. So if I'm playing with my son, I might have my own profile and he has his own profile. So I'll put James and it will save it into here. So you know whose save games are for which player. So we're not playing a game, but for me, a save game slot is a preset, like a preset on a lighting desk, because we can have lots of them. You can have as many as you want. The player name will become the fixture. So the fixture that saves into the player name. So we could have lots of different types of fixtures. And if we do this, it means that later on we can recall a save game slot designed for this fixture and play it back onto a different fixture. All right. We're going to get to it later, but just so you understand why those are there, and this is completely me, no one's shown me this is the way to do it, I just made it up, okay? And it seemed to work when I did it first time. So compile and save that. I'm going to come back to this later. We're going to go back into our UI now, and I'm going to refer to my notes. So we need to create some buttons. So we go back into our designer mode. What we're going to need is 4 things. We need a save button and a store button. Oh, sorry, a save button and a load button. The other 2 things will be the things that control the player name and the player slot, or the save game slot. We'll do those 2 things later. Let's just test the save game and load first, make sure it works. So we're just going to create 1 button, create 2 buttons. Okay, and we're going to name this one button load and this one button save. And let's give it some text. Hopefully you've done quite a lot of these by now and you're getting quite proficient at it. I've done something different. I don't normally do that. I don't normally name my text. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I don't name the text itself, because when you change the name of the text block, it does update it down here. So you have text and then the name of the text, and that's fine because it's unique. And I've just named the text, which is inconsistent if you've been following me. Right, see, I'm just going to leave that text block too, and then make that load. And you see down there, it now says text block save, and text load. You see, it's fine just to have it as text load. Okay, I'm going to click on this, come down to my interactions, where are they, the events here, on clicked, load that one in, and rather than going back, I'm just going to find my button load here and do the same thing, add an on clicked. I'm going to click them both and drag them up here. Now the reason I'm putting up here is because I want to be able to get to my DMX subsystem later on. Or do I? No, I don't think I do actually, but it's fine. We'll stick it over here because it's nice and neat. I'll just move that up. Okay, right. In fact, actually, no, we want the load button down here because we're going to have 2 separate sections for both of these. So when we click on the save button, we want to take whatever information is currently being sent to this light to be saved into a game slot. So to do that, first of all, we need to call up the blueprint we've just made. I'm going to drag out from the save button, and we're going to create a save game object. There we go. And we can select this from our drop down. We should see the one we made, BP_save game. There is one that comes default with the engine, but it's very hard to find in the engine. It's in the subsystem somewhere. So we've created our own because it's in our own blueprint folder. And then if you need to copy a project or migrate it, you know it's the one that we made. It's individual. So we do that. Now I'm also going to create a variable for this. Don't ask me why. I found it didn't work unless I did this. And I think it's because we need to call it out somewhere later. But we are going to create a variable save game instance. Okay, so that is now a variable that is returning the value of which save game blueprint we are using. And this is going to get pushed into the save game slot. So we're going to now go, we've got something else to add into the middle of this, which is why I'm pausing a little bit, but I'm going to keep it, go a stage at a time. All right, so we're going to go into a save game to slot, okay? That will then push some data into this save game slot. Which save game are we sending it to? The variable we just created, okay? So that should be the same. So whatever save game we put here will always get pushed into the save game slot. That's the slot name, and that's the user index. Right. So now we have that information. We need to set set the value of something. Oh, right, yes. So this works a bit like casting. If you haven't done casting before, and we haven't done it, we are going to do it a bit later. We need to cast information back from the save game node. Casting is a way of transferring variable data between two different blueprints. What you're effectively doing is saying in one blueprint, can I please have a look at your information? And in the other one, you say, yes, I can now expose this to you and you can see it. So it's a way of making sure that a variable in another asset can be seen. Now, we have got variables in our save game blueprint that we need to see in the UI blueprint. So we've said, by putting this in, please can I have a look at the BP save game variables and can I push information into it, please? It's very polite, you see, lots of pleases and thank yous in blueprints. They always talk to each other with P's and Q's, right? So we need to now set the value of the objects or the variables in the other blueprint. So what we're going to do is drag out of this variable and we're going to look for our save game underscore, or we can turn off context sensitive, hopefully it'll come up. It hasn't worked. Why has it not worked? What have I missed? Oh, we've got to set it first. We've got to set. So we need to set the intensity. Okay, I must have dragged that out of the wrong bit. Set the variable's intensity. So we need to get the variable for the save game node. Have I named it wrong? Save game underscore intensity. Let's just search for intensity, see if it comes up there. Aha, look, there it is. BP save game. Get save game intensity. It's because I was putting in the underscore. I must have confused it. So we want to set that. There you go. That's going to be our intensity. The target is coming from this variable, and now we need our pan. So let's just type in pan and see if it comes up. Searching for BP save game, set save game pan, and now we need our tilt. Let's just turn on context sensitive again and see if actually if I drag out of here, does that make things a bit easier? I'll type in tilt. Yeah, there we go, that's much easier to find. Set save game tilt. Okay, so we're now going to push in values into the save game. So we're going to connect these up so that they all go on, and then finally set it to the save game slot. Right, so that's almost there. What we need to do now is to set these values. Okay, what is the value we're actually going to push in? Well, obviously we want to push in the value from the same thing we're sending to the light, which is coming over here. Now this is why it's useful that we created variables for everything earlier. All of these values can now be pushed. So basically we just want whatever value that user interface widget is at, so if you move the slider and it's at 127, that it pushes that into the intensity slot. So let's get our variables that we used earlier. So we want our variable int, did we call it? Where is it? Well, I can see pan slider and tilt slider. Let's just do, oh, there it is, very int slider. So I want to get that. We want to do our pan slider, get that, and our tilt slider, get that. Now you understand this is different. This is the variable that we got inside this blueprint. This is the value of the slider itself, not the value that's going to the lighting desk or to the light. And then the other one called tilt is the variable we're holding in the save game. So we're going to pull this down. It's going to convert it from an int, from a float back to an int, and we'll do that for all of these. And try and keep it tidy. Not the most tidy ever. Right, and that should be saving all of those three parameters into our save game slot. What am I missing? I'm missing one target there. There we go. Let's finish that off. I'm going to compile, make sure that's all works. Yep, green tick, good. I must have done it correctly. Okay, now we are going to look at how to load our objects. So let's go to our button here that's loading. So what we want to do is pull back the information from that slot. So we want to load a game from the slot. So we created a save game object. We don't need to create one again, okay, because it's already been created at this point. We're going to load it. Save game from slot, okay. I'm only putting it over here because later on we're going to join the slot names and the user index up to those variables we created earlier. And I want to keep them close to each other so we can make that look neat. Okay, and that is almost it. Now we need to now push the data that is collected from the slate, from the load game, back into the variables that are used to control the DMX, which are these three here. So in this one, we've set it into those variables. Sorry, no, in this one, we've got it from the variables that are local and sent it to the ones in the save game. In this one, we're going to draw it back out of the save game and put it into the ones that control the user interface. So effectively pushing those sliders back where they should be. So what we're going to do is push this to the same three variables, but this time we're going to do a set rather than the get. So we're going to set that one. We're going to set our pan, and we're going to set our tilt. And hopefully, no, what have I done wrong? Right, we need to do something else first. We need to get the information back from the load game. So we are eventually going to be pushing into these three, but for now, we need to get the information back from the save game. So here we've set it, and now we need to load it. So we've got exactly a reverse of what we had before, a load and a set. So let's pull out of here and let's do intensity. And it's not letting us have it again. BP save game, get save game intensity. Now why is it not letting us connect that? Oh, okay, right, so we've got to do some casting. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's move these over. We'll get our... Actually, I want the BP save games just in here, but it'll be easier to find it. No. So we want our pan, and that will be under BP save game. Get BP save game. So that's the position of the pan information from the save game slot, and we're going to get our tilt from our get to save game. There we go. And we are going to push this into here, here, and here. Right. Now, even though these can be pushing into the save game without needing a way of casting to it, to get it back, we need to cast to the BP save game node. So let's drag these over. In fact, I'm just going to align these, make it look neater. So I've got them selected. Oh, that wasn't very good. And we need to do a cast. Now, if you've never done a cast before, this is kind of cool. It gets used quite a lot. I've got to be honest, I only figured this out quite recently. I'm used to using Playmaker in Unity, which doesn't think this way. Just any information you need, you just drag it across into another component. So this is a quite complicated thing to understand. Once you've got it, it unlocks loads of things to you in Unreal. The principle of it is that we need to tell this blueprint that we want to look at the save game blueprint. So we're going to drag this out and do a cast, and then you've got all the different things you can cast to, but we want to cast to our save game. Okay, our BP underscore save game rather, and not the class. We just want the save game. So that's it there, and we are going to look for the object there, and that will then return to these variables, which we're going to draw out of the save game, and then that will push to here. And I'm just going to, it's a little bit messy, I'm just going to drag these out like that. So there are, the event will then set all those values back into the variable of the int. So we're going to leave the slot name and the user index where they are for now. In fact, what I'll just put a 0 in there, just so that it's got some data. And I think that's everything. Let's compile that. I mean, good, I'll think about it, because now I've got some casts in it. It's doing a little bit more thinking. Let's see what happens, shall we? Let's turn this light back on again. This probably won't work first time. It usually doesn't. let's see. I've got my BP console underscore UI. I've got my BP save game with. These are the 3 slots that we're pushing into. So they're currently all at 0. But in theory, we'll end up setting a value and that will all change. Okay, let's hit play. Load our UI. Right, my pan and tilt information on. I'm just going to do something very simple. I'm going to push that up and load my intensity. There we go, that's pointing up at the moment. Don't know if you can see it the way I can. I'm going to hit save. And now I'm going to put it down. Ooh, on my screen, doesn't look good. And I'm going to load and see if it jumps back up again. And it does. Fantastic. So whatever position this is at, it is pushing that data now into the save game node. So I'm going to hit save again. It's now pointing at the wall. Let's drag it right back over here. And I'm going to turn it off. So just check all 3 parameters are working. It should, if I hit load and it's working correctly, put the mirror back over there with the light on. There we go, great. So we've got our save game node working. Okay, actually I'm just going to hit play again just to push it back. And actually what you'll find now is if I hit load, it remembers that position because now it's saved into that blueprint. And I'm just going to do it one more time just to stop it from printing. Okay, so we are going to stop there with this video. In the next video, we are going to work out how to create all of the user and player information so we can have multiple blueprints for this. But I hope that was interesting. Thank you very much.